Shehbaz Sharif, brother of ousted Pakistan PM Nawaz Sharif, has rejected a prison sentence passed on his brother by a local court earlier in the day. He said that the decision is politically motivated and is legally flawed. Shehbaz took over as Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, also called the PMNL, president after his brother was banned from holding office for life and is expected to be the PMNL's prime ministerial candidate. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has been sentenced to 10 years in jail for corruption. His daughter Maryam has been awarded 7-year in jail term. Both Nawaz and his daughter are currently in London. They have been found guilty of corruption in the Avonfield case, which is related to the ownership of 4 flats in the posh Avonfield house in London. Rescuers are racing against the rains to free 12 boys and their football coach who are trapped in a flooded cave in northern Thailand. Governor of the city Chiang Rai, where the boys are trapped, said that a deluge is expected to hit in a matter of days that could force the water level up. It may be threatening to flood the pocket where the group took refuge. A former Thai Navy diver has died while taking part in efforts to rescue 12 boys and their football coach trapped in a flooded cave in Thailand. Petty officer Saman Gunan lost consciousness on his way out of the Tham Luang cave complex where he had been delivering air tanks. The search and rescue for missing passengers on 2 capsized Thai boats near waters of Phuket Island is still on. Rescuers have located the sunken boat Phoenix with a sonar positioning system. The boat is lying underwater at a depth of 30 meters. Out of a total of 127, 78 Chinese tourists on the boat have been saved until now. 16 are confirmed dead and 33 others are still listed as missing. Japan has executed leader of the armed Shinrikyo cult that carried out a deadly nerve gas attack on the Tokyo subway in 1995. The sarin attack had killed 13 people and injured thousands more. Asahara's execution was the first of 13 former AUM members who have been condemned to death. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived in North Korea hoping to fill in details on the North's plans to dismantle its nuclear program and also to secure the remains of U.S. troops missing from the Korean War. He is expected to press the government to deliver on its promise to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. U.S. President Mike Pence has defended the quote-unquote important work of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also called the ICE. The federal agency has come under criticism in recent weeks for its role in executing President Donald Trump's zero-tolerance policy, which separated parents from their kids at the U.S.-Mexico border. German Chancellor Angela Merkel told the diplomats that she hopes not to enter into a trade of conflicts and that the European Union and the US find a solution which is good for both sides. Merkel made her remarks during her traditional reception of the diplomatic corps. One day after British Prime Minister Theresa May's Berlin visit, Merkel reiterated her regret about Brexit, saying she was still saddened. Parts of western Germany were hit by heavy rain, while the east of the country has not seen rain in weeks, therefore increasing the danger of forest fires. Northwest of Frankfurt has been covered in mud after heavy rains, while in the south of Berlin, firefighters were busy trying to extinguish a forest fire covering an area of 400 hectares. The head of the European Union's judicial advisory body visited Poland in support of the forcibly retired Chief Justice of Poland's Supreme Court. Kees Turk, chief of the European Network of Councils for the Judiciary, said that they were very worried about the independence of the Polish judiciary. Poland's ruling nationalists have carried out broad judicial reforms despite criticism that they undercut the rule of law in Poland. French President Emmanuel Macron and representatives of sovereign wealth funds have launched a strategy to pressure companies to be more climate-friendly. Guidelines include obligations for companies to calculate their carbon footprints. Macron told a news conference that it was in global finance's interest to think more about climate change. South Syrian rebels have agreed to give up arms in a Russian-brokered ceasefire deal. The rebels will be surrendering Deraa province to the government in another major victory for President Bashar al-Assad and his Russian allies. The Syrian government recovered the crucial Nasib border crossing with Jordan, held by rebels for 3 years. Israeli troops killed a Palestinian taking part in Gaza border protests that have entered their 4th month. However, the army said a group of fighters had accidentally detonated a bomb as they prepared to throw it. A death toll of Palestinians in east of Gaza City is now up to 136. Demonstrations were launched on March 30th this year to press for rights to lands that were lost to Israel in the 1948 war of its foundation. Foreign Minister of China, Russia, Germany, France and the UK met their Iranian counterpart for the first time since Donald Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. The meeting is being held in Vienna in a bid to prevent the disintegration of the landmark nuclear deal called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The US President Donald Trump accused the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. The Republican president has been lashing out at the petroleum group in recent years. Iran took a swipe at President Trump, asserting that the president and his tweets are responsible for driving up oil prices. The top UN aid official, Mark Lowcock, will visit North Korea next week in the first such visit since 2011 during his trip from July 9 to 12. Lowcock will meet government officials, humanitarian partners and people receiving assistance to better understand the humanitarian situation. The merger of ride-sharing companies Grab and Uber, Southeast Asian operations, has been found to impede market competition in Singapore and may be disbanded if proposed remedies are insufficient. Uber in March 2018 agreed to sell its regional business to Grab, a transaction that was not made known to local competition watchdog. And Boeing has got 80% stake in world's third largest aircraft manufacturer, Embraer. The $3.8 billion deal opens the manufacturing space in Brazil for Boeing. The tie-up bolsters a duopoly held by Boeing and Airbus as competitive threats emerge from rivals in Russia, China and Japan. Spanish tennis player Rafael Nadal threw his support behind Wimbledon's efforts to reduce plastic use. This comes as no surprise considering that Nadal is an avid ocean lover and says his secret to avoiding dehydration and fast recovery from playing in hot or humid conditions is seawater. Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad has said that Zakir Naik, who is a controversial Indian Islamic preacher allegedly wanted in his home country for terror-related activities and hate speech, will not be sent back. Naik, a radical television preacher, reportedly left India in 2016 and subsequently moved to largely Muslim Malaysia, where he was granted permanent residency. A lightning struck at fireworks shows in many states of the U.S., including New Jersey and Texas. The video on your screen shows a mesmerizing combination of lightning and fireworks in two different cities, Barrington, New Jersey and League City, Texas. The show in League City started earlier due to the threat of severe weather, hence it was filmed in daylight. A festival called Bruxelles Lava or Brussels Beach is brining the beach to Belgium's landlocked capital. The makeshift beach, which opened on Friday, is not in its 17th edition. This year, the event sits at the entrance to the city's new Contemporary Art Museum. Organizers hope the close proximity to the museum will expand the festival's reach. The Brussels locals won't need to leave town if they want to bury their feet in the sand and soak up some sun now. Paris's Champs-de-Mars turned into an obstacle course for horses as the world's most renowned riders gathered in the French capital for the Longines Paris Eiffel jumping competition. More than 100 riders, including 70 five-star show jumpers, trotted and galloped on their horses with the Eiffel Tower in the background during the contest's 5th edition. From couture gowns made from coffee sacks to sequins laser cut from Roside bottles, fashion's newest recruits are trying to turn their back on the industry's polluting past and competing for a prize which rewards sustainability. 10 emerging designers presented their latest looks to industry insiders, including Haute Couture Fashion Week, hoping to win based on their green credentials. Almost 300 school children in western India's Nagpur city had to be rescued after being trapped inside their school due to flooding of lower grounds. Toddlers from Adarsh Sanskar Vidyalaya bore the brunt of the incessant rains, which have left the whole city in crumbles, inundating roads, partially submerging houses and vehicles. The children had to be rescued using rafts, ropes and air tubes. Tibetans in exile across India celebrated the 83rd birthday of the spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, on Friday to pomp and gaiety. The Dalai Lama celebrated his birthday in the presence of thousands of devotees. Tibetan in exile government officials and others in Ladakh, nestled in the Himalayan desert, monks, nuns and devotees in the hill town of Dharamshala offered special prayers at the Sung Langkang monastery to celebrate the Dalai Lama's birthday. Heavy windstorm uprooted 5 iconic chinar trees in the picturesque Shalimar Garden in India's Jammu and Kashmir. Some of the uprooted trees were over 300 years old, while others were 2-3 decades old. Authorities have deployed men and machinery to clear the remains of the trees. Bhutanese Prime Minister Dasho Tshering Tobgay met his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi in New Delhi to boost bilateral ties. The two leaders led delegation-level talks and discussed ways to strengthen bilateral ties. Bhutanese Prime Minister Dasho Tshering Tobgay is on a 3-day visit to India. India's top court has said that the Chief Justice of India is the master of the roster and has authority to allocate cases. The Supreme Court was hearing a plea filed by former Union Law Minister Shanti Bhushan asking for a collegium of top court judges that can collectively allocate cases in the apex court rather than leave the entire power in the hands of the Chief Justice. France became the first team to book their place in the semi-final after seeing off Uruguay in the quarter-final. The South American outfit, without their star attacker Edison Cavani, lacked the attacking prowess Rafael Varane and Antoine Griezmann scored on either side of the break to secure a 2-0 win and seal a 2-0 win for the 1998 champions. France fans broke into the joyful celebrations outside the Nizhny Novgorod Stadium on Friday after France's victory over Uruguay in the first World Cup quarter-final. Cheering French fans said that they now expected their country to bring home the treasured cup. French fans in Russia as well as back home in France were ecstatic after the win. Disappointed Uruguayan fans said that they were proud of their team's performance at the World Cup and congratulated their opponents. As a team fell to the French 2-0, national pride was out in force as fans gathered with flags and faces painted in the national colours to watch the game at a plaza in the capital city of Montevideo. Fans said they were looking ahead to the next World Cup due to be played in Qatar in 2022. In Kazan, five-time champions Brazil were knocked out in the quarter-finals for the third time in the last four editions after going down 2-1 to dark horses Belgium. An own goal from Fernandinho and Kevin De Bruyne's thundering strike ensured there won't be a South American representative in the last four. Brazil did pull one back in the 76th minute, but Belgium hung on to enter the semi-final for the second time in the tournament history. And the remaining two semi-final berths will be decided tonight. First in action are England, who take on Sweden at Samara. The Three Lions were triumphant on penalties for the first time in World Cup history and beat Colombia to reach the last eight for the first time since 2002. Sweden are featuring in the quarter-final only for the second time in 60 years. And in late action, host Russia take on Croatia at the Stadium in Sochi. Russia stunned 2010 champions Spain on penalty shootout to reach their first quarter-final since their split from Soviet Union. Croatia, meanwhile, have established themselves as challengers for the title after they ousted Denmark following a shootout. Russian hairstylist Georgy Kot is presenting a soccer ball-inspired hairstyle. The Sochi designer presented the extravagant creation featuring a soccer ball swathed in curls in the colors of the Russian flag. Ahead of the Soccer World Cup quarter-final match between Russia and Croatia, the match will also take place in Sochi. Through Kot's creation is more suited to fans who won't be in the stadium, blocking people's view of the pitch. Singer Chris Brown walked off stage after his concert in Florida into the hands of waiting deputies. He was arrested on a felony battery charge for hitting a nightclub photographer last year. Brown had posted a $2,000 bond to be released from jail last year.